The schoolyard was buzzing with the usual noise of laughter, chatter, and basketballs bouncing against the pavement. But in one corner, a storm was brewing. Four older boys closed in on a new girl, their voices low but sharp, their smirks cruel. Her name was Amina, a quiet, thoughtful girl who had just moved into the neighborhood. She was tall, graceful, and carried herself with a quiet strength, but being different was all the excuse the bullies needed to target her. "Hey, new girl," one of them sneered, blocking her path. "You think you're too good to talk to us? Or are you just too scared?" The others laughed, circling her like vultures. Amina kept her head down, clutching her backpack. She had experienced this before, in other schools, in other places. The whispers, the mocking, the isolation. But today, she wasn't completely alone. Amina's two German shepherds, Shadow and Valor, sat patiently at the edge of the school gate, their eyes locked on her every move. They were no ordinary pets. These were trained military dogs, once partners to her late father, a decorated soldier who had passed away in service. After his death, the dogs had been entrusted to Amina and her mother, who took care of them like family. They had protected him in the harshest of battles, and now they protected his daughter with the same fierce loyalty. One of the bullies shoved Amina's shoulder, making her stumble. The boys laughed louder. "What's the matter? Gonna cry?" another taunted. For a moment, Amina's eyes burned with tears, but she took a deep breath. She remembered her father's words, "Strength doesn't always mean fighting back. It means knowing when to stand tall." The bullies didn't notice the shift in her posture, but her dogs did. Shadow rose first, his massive frame tense, ears forward. Valor followed, a low growl rolling from his chest like thunder. The sound silenced the laughter instantly. All four bullies froze, their cocky grins vanishing as they realized what was happening. The dogs stepped forward, muscles rippling, eyes sharp and protective. One boy whispered, "Dude, those are military dogs." Another swallowed hard. I think we should back off." But the leader wasn't ready to give in. "They're just dogs," he said, though his voice cracked. He took a step closer to Amina. That was all it took. Shadow barked, a deep, booming command that rattled the air. Valor bared his teeth, standing shoulder to shoulder with Amina like an unbreakable wall. The bullies stumbled backward, suddenly pale. They weren't laughing anymore. They weren't even moving. They were frozen, like statues caught in their own fear. And in that moment, Amina finally lifted her head, her voice calm but strong. "You should leave. Now." The boys didn't need to be told twice. They scattered, tripping over each other as they ran, throwing terrified glances behind them. The crowd of students who had been watching from a distance broke into whispers, then into applause. Some even cheered. The first bell had just rung, and the schoolyard was alive with noise. Students gathered in clumps, laughing, shouting, comparing weekend stories. For most kids, it was just another Monday morning. But for Amina, it was different. Every step she took through the yard felt heavy, like she was carrying invisible weights on her shoulders. It wasn't just that she was new, it was that she had been new too many times before. Her mother's job meant moving often, and each new school came with the same old routine: stares, whispers, judgments. People saw her dark skin, her quiet way of keeping to herself, and they decided who she was before she even spoke. That morning, she sat quietly on the edge of the yard, her backpack tucked under her arm. Her two German shepherds, Shadow and Valor, waited calmly just outside the school fence where her mother had left them. They were disciplined, well-trained, and alert, but to Amina, they were more than that. They were family. They were all she had left of her father. Her father had been a soldier, a man of quiet strength, who used to tell her bedtime stories not of fairy tales but of courage, honor, and loyalty. When he passed away in service 2 years ago, Shadow and Valor were retired and placed in Amina's care. They weren't just dogs, they were living memories of him. Every time she felt lost, she only had to look into their steady eyes, and she remembered her father's voice: "Courage, Amina. Never let fear decide who you are." But courage was hard to summon in the middle of a schoolyard filled with strangers. Especially when trouble came looking for her. It started with whispers. "Who's the new girl? She's weird. She's probably stuck up." The usual chorus. But then, 4 boys decided whispers weren't enough. They wanted to make a show of it. The ringleader was Marcus, tall, loud, and known for picking on anyone who didn't fit in. His friends trailed behind him like shadows, feeding off his arrogance. They spotted Amina by herself and walked over, smirking. Marcus kicked at the dirt as he stood in front of her. "Well, look at this. The new girl thinks she can just sit here like she owns the place." His tone was mocking, but there was a sharp edge underneath. Amina didn't reply. She had learned silence was sometimes safer than words. "What's wrong?" another boy chimed in. "Too good to talk to us? Or can't you speak English?" They all laughed. Amina's jaw tightened, but she kept her gaze low. Marcus leaned closer. "You're not special here, new girl. Nobody cares who you are. You're just nobody." The words stung, not because they were true, but because she had heard them so many times before. Her chest ached with a familiar heaviness. Still, she refused to let them see her break. She held her breath, clutched her backpack, and tried to stay still. But Marcus wasn't satisfied. He shoved her shoulder. Hard enough to make her stumble. His friends erupted in laughter. Amina caught herself, blinking back tear.